Hey everyone, we are here with some tags.
Probably Tuesday.
How do they know?
I just told them. And would I lie? Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is the Book Snob book tag. And we got this, I think it was started by Reading This Life, MJ at Reading This Life, or it was tagged. And then I saw it on Kite 562, Everyone Kite. Okay. Yeah.
Smooth.
All right. Shut up. All right, so the first one is, these are questions about being a book snob. So the first one is adaptation snob. Do you always read the book before you see the movie? I would say if I'm aware that it's based on a book and it's not something I've already read, I will try to read the book before the movie. Like if a movie looks appealing to me, but I know it's based on a book, I'll usually go out and try to, read it. I don't always do it, but I would say I generally attempt to do so. I don't know that I've always done that, but now I tend to. What about you?
I guess on rare occasions, I'll be like, ooh, that looks like a cool movie. What? It's a book? And then sometimes I'll try to read the book. But I don't usually do that too often because I'm not the kind of person that, runs right out to read a specific book. I just wander around and grab a random book and read that. So I'm not going to, make plans based on what movies are coming out.
All right. So number 2, so we're not really snobs on that, I guess. Number 2, format snob. You can only choose one format in which to read books for the rest of your life. What do you choose? Physical, ebooks, or audiobooks? So for me, I'm going to say ebooks only because I read them faster and it's easier to contain them. Obviously, I think the best format is a physical book because you don't need to charge a physical book. You don't need to listen to a physical book. All you have to do is open it and the book is there and you can read it. But I would just be realistic in the fact that, I predominantly read ebooks just because I find they're easier, I don't have to hold anything. It's more, it can, I guess books can go with you too. They're not really that heavy unless it's like Stephen King. But I just read more ebooks. What about you?
Yeah, it's really inconvenient when my physical book runs out of power and I can't turn the page. Oh.
Right.
So, yeah, I definitely like physical books more. I don't mind ebooks. They're fine sometimes, but I'd rather have a physical book. I would say I'm a bit of a book snob in that I don't even consider audiobooks having read the book.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've kind of covered this a few times. I understand, obviously if you have disabilities or if you're, stuck in traffic for extended periods of time and you're driving and you can't really read a book. But for the most part, I just don't do audiobooks. I tend to get distracted and, I like to read the book and I like to hear the voice in my own head and I don't like having other people's interpretations.
Sometimes the voices in my head argue about books.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. All right, number 3, ship snob. Would you date or marry a non-reader? And this is, I am a snob here. Absolutely not. And that doesn't mean that, they have to read the same kind of books as me. I understand, even if, they're not actively reading on a regular basis. I mean, I've gone through periods in my life where, I barely am reading. But I would say, if you identify as a non-reader, if you're the kind of person who says, oh, I don't really read, yeah, I'm not interested. I would never be interested. Reading is too important to me that I need, somebody, one, I think, it also is, a reflection of, intellectual curiosity, I think. But I also need, to be around someone who understands if I just, disappear for, hours or days and just want to, wrap myself into a book and, not talk to humans. What about you?
Well, I believe it was Shakespeare who first said, books be wordy. And I may have misattributed the quote. I don't know. I probably wouldn't marry someone who doesn't read at all. But dating them, I think it depends on anti-book versus fatness of ass. And so if you got a fat enough ass, I think I could date you for a little bit of time, even if you don't read. But it wouldn't be very serious. You know, at some point I'd be just like, read a book, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like, I think it's, you know, it's just like, I don't know, like, I mean, again, you know, if you have interests and, you know, you're really into movies or video games and, you know, that's fine. It's just the idea of somebody going, I don't read books. I'm just like, that would be like an automatic turnoff for me. All right, genre snob. You have to ditch one genre, never to read it again for the rest of your life. Okay, well, Sir Chonk.
Romance. Don't care. I hate it. It can go to hell.
All right, so that was not a problem for Sir Chonk. For me either. Like, I'd probably get rid of fantasy because, like, I don't really like a lot of fantasy books, and a lot of them are the same. And, like, obviously, like, I love A Song of Ice and Fire, as we talk about a lot, but I don't even think that that's fantasy. You know, the more fantasy I read, the more I'm like, I don't think this is even a fantasy novel. I think it's just a historical fiction.
Well, the dragons and stuff make it a bit of a fantasy novel.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. Most fantasy is just, like, crap.
Great.
All right. 5 is uber genre snob. You can only read one genre for the rest of your life. What do you choose? Sir Chonk?
Well, that's a lot more annoying. I guess I'd probably go with horror because, like, horror's got a lot of variety within it, and so I could still find a decent amount of stuff to read.
I would probably say either mystery or thriller or general fiction, like literary fiction, because, like, that has, like, so many things you can do, and it's not, like, genre focused, so...
You just said you have to pick a genre.
Okay.
You're saying this is not a genre.
Well, I mean, literary fiction...
I would choose the genre of books with pages.
Alright, fine, then mystery thriller. Alright, community snob. What genre do you think receives the most snobbery from the bookish community? I would say romance. I think people treat it like it's total trash, and to be fair, a lot of it is, but I mean, also, like, it's the same with any genre, really. You're going to have good examples of it, you're going to have bad examples of it, anything's going to be, like, very tropey. You know, there's plenty of, like, crappy fantasy and crappy horror books that are pretty, there's plenty of crappy, you know, thrillers, and I think... But for some reason, romance really, really is, like, set apart as, like, crap. I think that's also sort of, like, a misogynistic thing. Like, whenever, like, something is popular among women, it tends to be, like, less than. Which is kind of annoying. I mean, I'm not even a romance fan, but I just think that that's kind of an attitude that's like, oh, that's, like, for girls. And girls are dumb or something.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't pay much attention to what the book community says, so I don't really have a good answer. I guess also romance, but I probably am on the people who also hate romance, so maybe not a good choice.
Yeah, I don't really like romance, but again, I do think it's like...
you say, even though you've read like hundreds of romance novels.
I would say also YA. Like, there's like this attitude that if you read YA, you're not reading real books. Like, oh, if you're over, like, 18, you shouldn't be reading YA or, like, middle grade or children's fiction. But there's, like, good stuff happening in YA and, like, children's fiction. And I think that's obnoxious to basically be like, oh, you shouldn't read that. I mean, that means To Kill a Mockingbird or Huck Finn or Catcher in the Rye.
Those aren't reading YA.
They are, though, like, by definition. And so, like... I mean, I think it's just kind of... And the same thing with, like, romance. I mean, like, Pride and Prejudice is considered a romance. Like, Jane Eyre is a romance. Like, so, yeah. Anyway.
Well, it reminds me of that classic statement the Canadian guy said, "You're not reading YA? Why, eh?"
Okay. All right. And the last question is snobbery recipient. Have you ever been snubbed for something you've been reading or for reading in general? If so, I think less of that person. Like, if somebody was like, oh, you're a nerd, you're reading a book, I'm like, well, you're a moron. So, I don't really care. So I don't know if I mean, probably when I was a kid, like, it was considered nerdy to read, but, like, again, I just thought those people were idiots. And so, Yeah, I mean, again, I think probably there have been times where people are like, why don't you read serious fiction? You know, because I'll be reading like a YA novel or something, and I'm like, okay, go back to your like pile of Dean Koontz books. Like, they're not even reading like literary classics. They're over there like, oh, well, I read Robert Jordan, and so therefore I'm better than you. And I'm like, no, just because your books are longer doesn't mean they're better.
What a bunch of Koontz.
God.
Anyway, so yeah, one day I was reading Very Hungry Caterpillar during my teaching meeting, and people were like, hey, that's not challenging enough. So I did the dance from 10 Dual Commandments, and they were like, actually, you know what? I can't even talk to you anymore. So it worked.
Okay. I don't know what that answer even was. All right.
Challenge them to a duel.
Okay.
Number 1. Then he counts for 1.
Now he's singing Hamilton. So I think that's our note to leave. All right. So we'll see you around.
10 Dual Boop.